Good morning. Welcome again to another segment of Beyond the Well here in Jacksonville, Florida at First Church Hopewell. My name is Levy.
And I'm Malcolm. Beyond the Well is a live interactive broadcast intended for our social media audience and, of course, everybody who's in the congregation today. So we appreciate the fact that you've decided to come here, and also we appreciate the fact that you decided to tune in online. So please be a part of the program. This is interactive. We'll tell you what the topic is and what the question is, and then at that point, we definitely want to hear from you.
That's right, that's right. Well, our topic for today, Malcolm, is get your popcorn ready. What movies are you watching? And doing a little bit of research on this, I found it very interesting. I think we're going to have a good time.
Yeah, I think today we're going to step on some toes as usual. Today we're also going to step on our own toes, though.
That's right, that's right.
Yeah.
So movies, first of all, movies weigh heavily on our mind, and they influence us in many different ways. Whether or not someone likes a movie usually depends on whether or not they can relate to it or whether they see themselves in the movie in some way, shape, or form, which is okay. However, we need to be careful. We need to be mindful of 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 23. It states, I have the right to do anything, you say, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but not everything is constructive. And in the New King James Version of the Bible, it says, in that last part, not everything is constructive. That translation says, not all things edify. So.
That's right. That's a good word. Now, I went online, I found this poll that came out a few years back, and it revealed that 61% of Christians do not watch R-rated movies. So the question is, are you part of the 61% or the 39%? And I'll be honest. So I'm part of the 39%, but let me explain. So I very rarely watch R-rated movies. And for me, it really depends upon the movie itself and the reason that it's rated R. So for example, there's some movies that talk about history, for example, slavery, and then they're rated R for reasons, related to that.
Right.
However, if it's a movie that, is rated R because of nudity or language or horror, then that's not something I want to see.
Right. I mean, as a Christian, there are some movies that I don't want to be seen going into and then coming out of with the crowd, especially if I'm with a friend of mine who I know is not saved or whose walk isn't quite there yet. I know in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 24, and this is right after the edification piece, it says, let no one seek his own, but each one the other's well-being. And I'm just thinking about what message that would send for me to sit down with a friend of mine, and I've got refreshments, I got my nachos, watching a movie that's rated R for strong sexual content, nudity, crude humor, etc.
Yeah, and then who might catch you as you're coming out of that?
Right, that'll be the day pastors at the arcade, and I come out.
That's right.
So I don't want that to happen.
That wouldn't be good. So I also found a checklist online, and this checklist could be used to help you determine whether or not you should watch the movie. So question one is there nudity or sex? So if, like Job, you made a covenant with your eyes not to look at another woman, then keep your covenant. Don't watch the movie.
Right.
Next part of the checklist is, does the movie glorify violence or promote sin as if it was a positive thing? So I would say consider Galatians chapter 5, verses 19 through 21. The acts of the sinful nature are obvious: sexual immorality, impurity and debauchery, idolatry and witchcraft, hatred, discord, jealousy, fits of rage, selfish ambition, dissensions, factions, and envy, drunkenness, orgies, and the like. I warn you, as I did before, that those who live like this will not inherit the kingdom of God. So think about that as you're choosing the movie that you watch as well. Is it glorifying sin? Is it promoting sin as if it's a good thing, when clearly it's not? And then lastly, is God blasphemed in the movie? Now, this is something that as Christians we should be taking personally, because this is somebody talking about your dad. So if you don't take it personally when somebody talks about your dad, that's an issue.
Right. Right. And, Malcolm, I want to say, too, admittedly, I've seen certain movies that I haven't done my research on, and I thought I could just go in and sit down. I saw the trailer. I was like, oh, it's not going to be that bad. And then a scene comes on the screen, and I'm like, oh, Lord, what is this? But the sad part is that I didn't get up and leave. I stayed. And what I thought of and what I surmised was that, oh, that was just a one-time thing. It'll be all right. And I remember specifically a movie, and I'm not going to say the name of it, but after that scene, 3 more came up later on in the movie. And I realized that, I probably should have gotten up and walked out. And instead of just sitting there like, oh, it'll get better, it'll get cleaner, but come on now. I mean, and one thing that I realize also is that, God is not going to physically come down from heaven, reach into the theater, and then pull you out. Not physically anyway. But that conviction is his presence, letting you know that you're probably watching something you shouldn't. You should get up and go.
That's right. That's right. And it's something that we can't continue to run away from. It's something that we need to respond to the way that he wants us to respond. I've certainly watched some movies over my lifetime that I had no business watching. And one of the things I think about is when I was a little kid. So I was the youngest of 5 kids. And we'd have, movie night where we're all sitting around watching the movie. So we used to watch scary movies sometimes. So as a little kid, I watched The Exorcist. I watched The Omen.
Oh, Lord.
I watched Jaws. So, I mean, people talk a lot about terrorism, but terrorism has been around for a long time. I experienced it growing up. So,
wow.
And my brother isn't a terrorist like that, but he terrorized me. So I remember that this was after watching Jaws as a little kid. We had bunk beds, and he was on the bottom bunk, and I was on the top bunk. And after everybody went to sleep, house was dark, he said, dun-dum, 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 dun-dum. I got up screaming, running to my parents' room. I remember having to sleep in the hallway with the light on. I mean, that was terrorism as a child. So I think a lot of times people say that, movies won't affect me, I can watch it and be all right. But really, we're just kidding ourselves. Actually, we're just lying to ourselves because what we watch affects us in some way.
That's right. That's right. And one of the tricks that the devil uses is deception. He'll make us think that, it's no big deal, but deep down something is taking root in us and we don't even know it yet. So does all this mean that we can't watch a comedy or something of that nature and have a little fun? Not at all. That's not what we're saying, but not all movies are bad. Some people like action, sci-fi, robots, etc., and that's okay. Now, we're not saying robots and comedy or laughter is of the devil. However, we are encouraging you to do your homework and see how it lines up with God and his character before you buy a ticket to go see 50 Shades of Grey.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Think about our devotional. So today's devotional dealt with the fact that God is the potter and we are the clay. And so if we know that to be the case, we have to allow God to mold us and make us and shape us and lead us and guide us and direct us the way that he wants us to go. So there may be some movies that people may have seen in the past that they'd never make the decision to see that again in the future. And the blessing of that is that our potter is molding us and shaping us and directing us. And it's up to us to be obedient.
That's right. Now, what you watch and seek for entertainment says something about you. And if we're being honest, this whole entire segment wasn't just about, for the audience, but it's also for us as well personally. Philippians chapter 4, verse 8 states, "Finally, brethren, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there is any virtue, and if there is anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things." Think about it.
That's right. So hopefully we're giving you something to chew on. And until next time, be sure to go beyond your comfort zone, beyond your community.
And beyond the well. Thank you.
Thank you.